What is up, everybody? Welcome to a Pretty Perspective podcast,
a place where we bring light to hardship. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're super excited today to talk about a topic that will give you plenty of takeaways. We want to talk about journaling, and I was kind of thinking about this because in the coaching space, there's not a lot of fitness coaches also have mindset coaches, right? There's not just coaching. So mindset coaching is something that I'm trying to get better at as a coach. And one thing I think can be super helpful to deliver clients or friends or people you're trying to help is journal prompts and things to think about. So we wanted to go over some like different journal prompts. We don't really have a direction specifically we're going, but just different journal prompts to handle different mental blocks, different pattern, trying to break loops, and things like that. And so I actually a couple days ago made a few journal prompts using ChatGPT. And before I did it, I explained to Chat my theories on these two common challenges. So, for example, well, not for example, this is what I did, literally. I
Is this your first time doing this?
Well, for this, yeah.
I'm kidding. I meant like being on a podcast. I'm joking.
So a lot of people ask questions about discipline and motivation, like how do you get discipline or how do you find motivation? And my answer is I don't just go looking for it. It's not something you just like find. It's not something you're just born with really either. Like you're like, oh, you're just so motivated that I don't think that's a thing. And so this is just my theory. It doesn't have to be fact, but for me, motivation is just it comes down to what are you running towards and or what are you running from? So like if you have a goal, that goal is to either get you towards something that makes you feel better, joy, happiness, success, whatever, or you're running from something that tore you down. And I think you could say both could be true at the same time, if that makes sense. So I explained that to Chat. I said, if this is motivation, and I explained it my way, give me some like thought-provoking journal prompts that I could give somebody to help them decide that for themselves, like which resonates for them. And then I did the same thing for discipline, and I explained discipline as really like discipline equals choice and systems. And so to have discipline, you just have to decide, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, you just have to decide what you want and then find the systems to get you there. Because discipline, when things are hard, I don't believe discipline is just like a thing that you have. It's you continuously making the choice to get what you want and following the systems you put in place to make it easy. And so again, I had Chat kind of like walk me through a couple journal prompts from that. And I can actually pull them up on my phone, but what are you thinking over there? You're writing notes.
Yeah, I want to back up to the two things can be true at once thing, because that's really important, especially for people who are high achievers, or let's just say people who have like multifaceted minds, right? We're multi-potentialites. So the two things that can be true at the same time, what Lindsay was saying is like you could either be running from something and you could be running towards something. And I think that that can be true because I have suffered from doing both of those things at the same time. I'm guilty of my motivation comes from running away from things. I don't necessarily care about what the goal is in front of me. Just put the goal in front of me so I can run away from the thing it is that I'm trying to run away from, right? And that's actually, you know, that's a really hard pill to swallow, because at some point within that conversation with yourself, you start to question whether or not the thing it is that you're running towards to get away from the thing that you're running away from is actually the thing that you want. So what do I mean by that? I mean, in the last like 2 years, I was in a very tumultuous relationship with somebody, and the fuel that gave me to get things done at the gym changed when I started to heal. So it scared me because I thought, well, if I don't have this to be running away from, then where do I get my motivation to keep going towards these goals that I have at the gym? It was actually really scary because I had to then look in the mirror and be like, am I a gym goer or was I just doing this to try and prove something to the person I was trying to be in a relationship with? Like, so these questions and stuff that we're asking are actually, they can be very dismantling. And so I think it's easy to not even have these conversations with yourself, therefore leading to it even just being difficult to journal or anything like that, right? So I think other people experience that a lot, but we just don't talk about it because it's just this nuanced thing that happens.
Experience what?
Realizing that the thing that you're running from is giving you the fuel to the thing that's in front of you. So it's like, where do you get your motivation if you're not working through trauma, or if the motivation and the discipline that you have isn't actually motivation or discipline, it's actually a trauma response.
Yeah.
Like people who just work and work and work and work and work and work and they fill up their schedule. I was guilty of that too, where I'm like, I'm successful because my calendar's always full.
Yeah.
Actually not. I'm unsuccessful in taking care of myself because my calendar is full. And I don't mean like I sit around and do nothing or whatever. I just mean, where is the time? Journaling can help you get to seeing the picture that you've painted. And sometimes we don't see the picture anymore because we are the artist and we are the painter. And it takes something like writing it down and seeing it. If you keep track of your journals, like some of y'all don't apparently from
Yeah.
our last conversation. But you have these, it's so fascinating. I have a journal that I brought with me from 2 years ago, and just I can see and feel how fucking hard I was trying, how lost I was. And now it's proof of growth. It's proof of like where I was at. It's you go back further than that. And it's just this mirror of your soul is trying to tell you where to go.
Yeah, so that was really cool that you shared that and kind of shared how it shows up for you a little bit. And I'm really happy that you mentioned that because these questions help people uncover stuff like that as well. So it's not just because that's the thing, motivation and discipline are complicated. That's why when people ask you, or they ask a fit person, or they ask a millionaire, how do you get motivation? How do you get discipline? The answer is never, oh, I get motivation from XYZ. I can't even think of a bullshit answer for you because it literally doesn't exist. Like, and so these questions help people uncover kind of what you're talking about. And it's like, what's driving you? Because if you're running away from something like pain, if you spent so much time in pain and you're running from pain, so that's why you don't want to go to the gym because it hurts and it's painful and I shouldn't have to do that. You need to lay that all out and figure it out so that you can actually do what's good for you and reframe what you're running from or what you're moving towards, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah, just acknowledging it to begin with. I think, you know, as a bartender, my favorite question to ask people when I would be waiting on them would be, if money didn't matter, what would you be doing? And most people didn't have an answer to that question. So what I think motivation is motivation is the thing that you do that lights you up. You
mhm.
don't need a reward from it, right? There's no expectation. You just know that you wake up and you want to do that, right? Like Lindsay and I go to the gym. We've created this positive feedback loop for it, right? So motivation and discipline become a feedback loop for each other. So whatever's lighting you up, and if you don't even know what that is, that's still a really good place to start.
Yeah.
But what lights you up leads to discipline, because whatever is lighting you up, you're gonna figure. Listen, everybody, everything that you're doing in life, just treat it like a drug. Drug addicts are really good at what they do, right? They're gonna do and figure out whatever it is that they can to get the thing that it is that they want. So for me in my life, it's like I want A, B, and C. So then I decide, okay, like you were saying earlier, that kind of decides the discipline to the thing it is that you're going to get to. On the days when you it still lights you up, but maybe physically you're not into it. Your body's not into it. You're a sloth, but your brain is like, yeah, but I love doing this. That's also actually a part of recalibrating your nervous system into something that serves you. Because again, to go back to the thing, if you're running away from something to reach a goal, then you're creating a feedback loop to constantly be feeding that fear to drive you. So you can also do that with positive stuff. You can also do that with things that bring you joy and make money on things like that too, right? It sounds so cliche when you hear somebody say, "Oh, do what you love and the money will follow." That's real. It's not like a bullshit thing, but it's like, how important is this thing to you? Or figuring out like, we all know typically what the input is, or I'm sorry, we all know what the output is that we're trying to get to, right? So the goal it is that we're trying to make. But sometimes we don't understand what the input is to get to that output. And when we figure that out, it's also okay to decide that maybe you don't really want that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, should I share my screen and I can share some of the
Sure,
prompts?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I pulled up some of the prompts so we can share them with you guys. And I'll read through them. You can write them down or screenshot this if you're watching. Whoa, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, so motivation. Let's see if I can zoom in. The first one is when I think about my current goals, do they feel more like an escape from something painful or a pursuit of something joyful?
Yay, yes.
Number two, what emotions come up when I imagine achieving my goal? So, when you think about achieving your goal, do you feel relief, freedom, joy, excitement, or something else? Number three, if I stopped running from pain, what would still inspire me to keep moving forward? How do my past experiences of pain shape the way I pursue success or happiness today? That's a really big one. What small, joyful experiences can I start weaving into my journey so that I'm not just motivated by what I want to avoid?
Hmm.
Ooh, so that's good. That's a good one for people who do feel like they run from pain. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just going to keep reading. Six, in what areas of life am I primarily driven by fear or avoidance? Where am I driven by curiosity, love, or joy? We always talk about on here shifting to curiosity. What would it look like if my motivation was only about joy? How would my choices shift? So those are the motivation ones. Which one landed for you? Or what do you think would be most helpful for everybody?
I think number two,
I think that's a
because when emotions come up when I imagine achieving, or what emotions come up when I imagine achieving my goal? Relief, freedom, joy, excitement, or something else? I think that that's a really important question because I think a lot of the people that we're talking to have a hard time celebrating. And I'm saying that based off of my own lack of celebrating my achievements. So when you can tie an emotion to a goal, it's going to stick better
Yep.
and you're going to be more likely to succeed in completing that goal. Even if it's maybe you get angry, but there's something else behind the emotion that comes up when you think about achieving that goal, and that's really important to pay attention to.
Yeah. And
And
if
numbers, sorry.
I was just gonna say for number two too, like if you're imagining achieving your goal, like if you're imagining achieving your fitness goal or you're imagining achieving your like career goal, whatever it may be, if it makes you nervous, if you get anxious thinking about achieving it, then you that gives you something else. Like if you are anxious about achieving your goal, if you're scared of what's on the other side of your goal, you are not going to be able to receive
Right.
that goal. You
That's huge, yes.
will not be able to hold it if you're already anxious about it when you don't even have it. And we all do that. Like some goals seem so big, but that's part of this motivation piece is like you have to be what people would want to call delusional a little bit. You have to be what you want like it's already yours.
Yeah, and that anxiety or doubt or whatever it is just a barrier to you being able to hold that thing, right? And it's actually, you go a little bit deeper into that too, and it's actually indicative of how much joy you hold for yourself in that moment, meaning like maybe in order to achieve the goal it is that you're looking to achieve, you need to apply that like to your own self. And, like where does that show up or lack thereof in your own like self and how you care about yourself or how you love yourself or how willing you are to receive anything. If you don't think you're worthy, it's never going to come to you because that's the energy that you're emitting. So that's going to be what you receive back.
And you're subconsciously deflecting all of the things that could be leading you to that goal
Yep.
if you don't really truly want it in your heart, you know.
Or if you think that, if you're somebody who thinks that you have to earn everything like love or a good job or a safe place or whatever, it is your divine right to be safe and to be loved and to have all of the success it is that you want, and our culture is really kind of scouring that out of us, really.
Yeah.
Um, I was going to say number 7, what would it look like if my motivation was only about joy? How would my choices shift? And I love this because it's going to bring up two things for me. Sometimes I don't like responses that chat gives because I think that that's not realistic. You can't, I'm sorry. You, for me personally, I would write about both of those things, about joy and then whatever the opposite of joy is in tandem together, because you get lost in toxic positivity, I think,
Mhm.
if you only rely on one thing like that.
Yeah, I was thinking like this question's really similar to when you ask people though, what would you do if money wasn't a thing?
Yeah, yeah. I leave it more open-ended though, rather than relying on one thing to guide it, I guess. But I just wanted to mention that.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a good point. Okay, cool. I'll read through the discipline ones real quick. So again, I described to chat that I meant discipline means making the choice to do what's best for myself and building systems around it. So,
Hmm.
no,
Smart, by the way.
what'd you say?
I said smart, by the way.
Number one, what does doing what's best for myself mean to me in this season of life? Which areas of my life, number two, which areas of my life feel hardest to stay consistent with and why? What systems, routines, or supports could I create that would make the hardest things feel easier? Four, when I avoid discipline, what am I really choosing instead? Number five, how does my current environment, home, work, relationships support or sabotage my discipline? What is one small decision I can make daily that reflects choosing the best for myself? How do I feel about discipline? Does it feel restrictive, freeing, empowering, heavy, and why? And if discipline is love in action towards myself, what does that look like in practice today? That was so sweet.
Hmm.
That's what I'm trying to like get this like a, the first thing you have to do to have discipline is to choose yourself. If you aren't like a diehard to make your life what you want it, if you're not like, no, dude, like I deserve this shit, like I deserve the shit, like you're never gonna have discipline. Like that's sustainable. You could beat yourself up, but that shit just doesn't last. Like you can have discipline, like, oh, I fucking suck. I have to blah blah blah. You're gonna get sick, bro. That's all I have to say. But you have to,
Well, that I would also argue that that's not discipline, that's rigidity, and
yeah.
that's not the same, right? It's you can breathe inside of discipline because there's safety in discipline. Rigidity is perfectionism on steroids, right? Like there's no breathing room in that. And I want to bring up another word that kind of is in between motivation and discipline. And in my head, this is how it works. You start with motivation, right? Then we have this really beautiful word called devotion.
Ooh.
And I don't believe discipline is achievable without devotion. So what do I mean by that? I mean what Lindsay just said. First of all, you gotta find your motivation for the thing it is that you want. And then from there, to get to discipline, you're devoted. So that leaves room for error, that leaves room for setbacks, that leaves room for mistakes, right? So we're devoted to showing up for ourselves. That means you don't abandon yourself,
Yeah.
within a system that's uncomfortable because it's new, or maybe you do, but then at least acknowledge it and go, okay, oh, that's what that is, and then you go back to it. But you have to be so devoted for X amount of time in order for discipline to show up, because discipline is a byproduct of success. I think discipline shows up after you've been motivated and devoted for such a long time. That discipline, it's like training on a program for X amount of months, right? You had to get motivated to do that for some reason. You had to be devoted to yourself to do it. And then once you achieve that goal, I believe discipline comes kind of after that. Now it's kind of mixed in, all three of those things work together. But I think there's actually much more safety in discipline than people realize. It's not a bad word. It's not this thing where you have to trim the fat off of everything it is that you're doing. In fact, it actually welcomes all of that stuff so you can see where you're at clearly in your own life, not what everybody has said to you or otherwise.
I think too, that's why the system piece is really important, like,
Yeah.
because that system should build in. It's not about the rigidity and never ever missing a workout. It's not about the rigidity and leaving your workouts beaten down to the ground every single time. It's not about saying no to the French fries every single day. Like, it's about building systems so that you're like, okay, this is kind of the foundation. This is kind of the baseline of what I need to do to become the person I want to be. Because it's very clearly laid out for you what it takes to get what you want. Discipline allows you to show up most of the time, at least
Mhm.
80% of the time in that system, and gives you that 20% to fuck up, take a break, get
Mhm.
sick, take a trip. And discipline means you come back because you're devoted to yourself and because you have that motivation already that you've already solidified when you got started in the first place. You know what I mean? And so I love that you brought motivation and devotion into it. I feel like that's a really good trifecta.
Yeah. Yeah. And, to be transparent with everybody, I wasn't really feeling an episode. And then, I was like, I'm disciplined though. And we have this thing and we've already done it. So, like, just keep it going. And I even put like a time limit on it, right? Because,
Mm.
that's another big thing for journal prompting. Let's say for most people, the hardest thing for you is to start, right? Because the brain hates open-ended shit. Okay. It hates it. So, I don't care if set a timer for 1 minute and just journal for 1 minute. You get to win. You did what you said you were going to do. You wrote something down, even if it's one fucking word. I don't even care. And your brain, you're not going to loop into it because your brain knows that there's an end. Give your brain the satisfaction of knowing that it's gonna end. That's in a workout. That's in all of it. That, like, just give it some time. So I told Lindsay today, I'm like, there's no reason why I can't get on here for 30 minutes to 45 minutes and do this thing just because I'm not feeling it or whatever. That's fine, right? So my motivation is low today. But the devotion to myself and showing up for myself has now become bigger than the motivation it is that I need to get started, which then now is feeding my discipline where we're creating this positive feedback loop for discipline. I actually want more discipline now. And I actually proved that to myself today by sitting and doing this serendipitous episode about this. So that's very, very cool.
It's funny because I did not want to either. You're like, we can hop on right now. I'm like, let me grab my popcorn. And then I sat back down.
Yeah, right. I'm like, it'll be all right. It'll be all right.
And for me today, I was driven by motivation for this podcast. Like, I was motivated by like what we're trying to do with this podcast. I'm like, what I'm trying to do with this podcast is way bigger than the way that I fucking feel right now.
Totally.
So that,
Yes.
that your devotion and my motivation work together, and here we are.
And it's such a cool thing to be talking about too, because being out in Utah, I've shared the podcast a couple of times and people are like, well, so like, what's it about? And I'm like, oh, you know, I, and I always like land on our name. I land on our name and I'm like, well, it's called A Pretty Perspective because we want to talk about things that are difficult in a prettier way. You know, I get all weird about it, but it's like we don't, it's not like we have like a solid mission statement or we have something, and it's probably time to look into that. But what I'm saying is that our motivation to do this because of our devotion to helping people is expanding. Our bandwidth is expanding. So we're not only trying to reach the people that we're in close proximity to through training, or maybe just because you and I could have just stayed friends over Instagram. We didn't have to do this,
Yeah.
but the bandwidth for helping others and how we're getting created, like the next episode, you guys, is going to be so good. It's going to be so fun. But it's if what you're doing through what motivates you and whatever that looks like, it will start to expand because where you started will seem so small. And I don't mean that in a dismissive way. I just mean that in a like, we tooted out one episode, the first time ever without even like trying. And now here we are, like really intentionally trying to think about episodes that we want you guys to take something from, that we want you guys to learn something from, that you can apply, or maybe the extension of us trying to help you then extends into other people where it's like, oh, maybe you know everything that we're talking about, but you encounter somebody who doesn't know how the brain works or is really having a hard time journaling, or, I like to think of like really catastrophic situations where you never know. Maybe you're around somebody who's nonverbal and you can help them be able to communicate with other people, which then in there gives them a better quality of life because now they can express themselves to the degree that they need to in the needs that they need or whatever. Um, but even everything I just said takes motivation, leading you to the discipline of it. And I'm a firm believer that you need to get into something physical and do it for 3 to 6 months. And that'll teach you everything you need to know about how you learn, how you're motivated, and how you get things done. And the example that I like to give for this is that, outside of being at the gym, my life is kind of smeared everywhere. But after I took first place in the Spartan race, I literally was like, how the hell do I take what I just did for this race and stretch it over my whole life? Because if that worked, there's some mechanism in there or several that I can apply that to other parts of my life. And the only thing that's different about it is that they're less worked muscles. I have less muscle mass in certain parts of my life than I do like at the gym. And so everything that we're talking about is relatable to whatever it is that you're struggling with, which I think, can also make me come off kind of hard-headed or something if I'm like sitting in front of you because I don't really care about the whys. I want to know what it's going to take for you to move forward out of them, right? I, I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. I don't have anything else to say.
those are really good prompts. I think if somebody's going to start somewhere, you guys should get back on here and screenshot that shit. And, give your brain an idea of when it can end. Like maybe give it 2 weeks and then just take inventory of what you wrote down for 2 weeks.
Also, now I have something to say. It just took me a second. It just took me a second to process what you were saying. You could pick one of these journal prompts to think about during a workout or during a run.
Yes.
Habit stack that shit. Like you don't have to actually journal this if you really don't want to. I think like yes, there's
Just
something
think about it. Yeah.
think about it or like I've said it before I think on this podcast, going for a run and talking about something out loud while you're running. One, great to test where you're at with your heart rate zone, staying in two, all the people out there training zone two runs. Talk out loud, pick a journal prompt, choose something that you're struggling with, and get a good question flowing in your mind, a couple questions flowing in your mind, and just talk it out. Because once you say it or write it, it triggers like a conversational, because I'm really big about dialogue. I like to sit in front of somebody and talk something out. If you have a topic you don't want to do that with somebody with, or you have a topic that you just are having a trouble even thinking of the words to say, like starting with like nonsense and working your way there through pen and paper or through talking to yourself is just so powerful. So I'm a big habit stacker running, praying, walking, praying, cooking, praying, stretching, praying. Like there's so many things you can habit stack that will 10x your life, 10x your mindset.
Well, and I have to be a nerd about it. So the reason why that ends up starting to feel good is because you're literally priming your nervous system to reach for that behavior when you're stuck in a place. Like before I got out here to Utah and I was training with Russ and we'd have like simulation days, right? I'm walking into the gym knowing I'm gonna have to leave something on the floor today. But it would like my drive to the gym that morning, I thought it was so weird a couple of times where it was like these big things, emotional things would come up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my body knows that I'm about to go work really hard. So actually, what's helping my athleticism get better tenfold, like you just said, I'm metabolizing really big shit inside of this workout. And so my body's literally like, oh, we know you're going to do this thing. So we're going to bring this up. Your brain will bring it up for you to think about because then eventually you get to the gym, you work it out. I can't even tell you how many times I've had to tell Russ not to look at me because I'm crying, or I've this thing that's coming out, right? Or I achieve a new PR, not because it's not all just because the reps have been repeated over and over again. It's because I'm moving something emotional through my body. And that's what we're wired to do, And if these prompts can get you there, I mean, like she said, your life will change.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you'll be so busy having so much fun in the change that one day you'll wake up and you'll look around you and be like, oh shit, I didn't even know that I had gotten this far yet. But that's when you go back to your journal and you're like, oh my God, here I was 18 months ago, 24 months ago, which is not a long time. I had this thought the other day when I was getting ready for a run. I'm tying my shoes and I'm like, man, I'm 34 years old. It means, I go around the earth. I get to go around the earth once a year, right? I only get to do that 50 more times. What? Probably, right? 50, 60 more times. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, in the totality of things, it's like, do you want to spend the last like 60 more times you get to do that being fucking miserable? Or like living a life that you get to figure out? Because man, I'm getting on a rant now, but it's all just an illusion. You get to do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want to do it.
Yeah. Two of my biggest things right now is one, pretending time doesn't exist.
Yep.
Oh, also in that, time and money, pretending they don't exist. Same thing, kind of. And then I've been reading this book called Energy Medicine.
Mm.
And the latest thing I learned was like, I already knew this about the lymphatic system, but it's going to give some specific like ways to move your energy through the lymphatic system. So
Mm-hmm.
this book has all the different energy systems and then different exercises and things that you can do to like move that energy for yourself for free. Um, and so my mom had mentioned that she was getting sad during her workouts, and I was like, that's normal. Welcome. Like,
Yeah, right, right. Honestly.
and so I'm trying to show her too, because when you do get
Good
into,
job, Mom.
yeah, when you do get into those workouts, you are moving things through your lymphatic drainage system. It's helping those toxins that those toxins and that energy that's stuck in you get out. And so if you're holding sadness and you get into a workout or whatever you're holding, for me, it's sometimes like anger. I work through anger a lot. I don't know why.
Oh, it's always anger for me. It's always.
Yeah. It's a lot of anger. Some people it's sadness. Yeah, and I just think it's so cool to learn from this book right now. I'm taking it nice and slow, reading a couple pages every morning, and to be able to I can't wait to share this stuff with my clients as a free thing you can just try and see if it makes your life better. And if it doesn't, there's literally no side effects. So,
Right. Your life is exactly the same as when you started. You're just never going to get that time back, which isn't real anyway, so who cares?
exactly.
Um, um, for anybody who is I don't know. I just have a very busy mind and it's always doing something all the time. And so when I'm reading books like that, like what Lindsay's talking about, I'll trick myself into journaling and I will annotate the pages. So when something jumps out at me, I'll highlight it or I'll circle it or I'll put like a little comment in there. And that
Right.
actually helps to retain the information that's in the book as well. So that's something you can also try. But I think with any of this stuff, because we talk about this a lot too, and that inner child stuff. If you're having a hard time doing something, just make it into a game. It's really not that hard. That inner child wants to see how many pages you can do. It wants to feel good sitting through something they didn't really want to do. I got 121 flashcards over here that I was killing myself over this afternoon. And my inner child was like, this is stupid. I hate this. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, well, you're not going to be hating it when you're making much more money than you were before. So just shut up and do it.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I like to annotate my pages with a highlighter and then also just not rush myself. We're not in
Yeah,
school anymore. Like you
right.
have just the 1 week to finish this book. I'm reading a couple pages a day, trying because it's a applicable book. Like there's things I want to try. And so I'm giving myself that space to take the massage that it teaches me about and do it before I move on. Because I'm gonna have questions. I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna like sit with those couple pages I learned and that one applicable thing. If I sit with it for 2 days, who cares? I'll read something the next day. You know what I mean? So I think not rushing yourself is really important as well. And I
Yeah,
love
slowing down and making sure that you're absorbing what it is that you're reading, especially in books like that, because that's so beneficial for you to. I watched this lady on TikTok, God forbid, but she had this like lymphatic like brush for her face and she was literally covering up one side of her face and like moving it over her face on this and she moved this one that had not moved any of it and I was like I know that it's real but to like see it on a woman who's older who is visibly like I'm not kidding you guys her face this whole one side was as if there were no wrinkles and then the other side was like she was dehydrated and it's the fascia you're like moving all this stuff around and it's so real, and it's laughable to me when people protest things like that because,
part of the Matrix.
well, I don't look like I'm 20 something for no fucking reason.
Oh my gosh, yeah, someone today told they asked me if I go to school down here. I was like, no, I graduated in 2021. And they're like, what? I'm like,
Yeah,
I swear it's the gua sha. Like I literally said that.
that's amazing. I love it. You're looking more like defined in your face, though. You can tell that you're either leaning out or something, or you're healing and moving something out of your body because your facial structure has changed
My face shows.
in a good way.
No, yeah, thank you. I like can clearly see when I need help. And
Well, and I don't even mean like blemish wise, I mean like the
structure.
shape. Yes.
I
Yeah.
know.
Okay. Okay, good.
It really needs like I also sometimes like I'm not super consistent with the gua sha. Like every once in a while I'll go a couple days without moving the stuff through and you can tell obviously sleep as well and just overall movement and what I'm eating through the day like it all adds up. But
Mhm.
yeah, journal, gua sha, exercise.
Right. For me, yeah, right now I can tell I'm so in tune with my body. I can tell when I'm not getting enough protein because I just feel like a fucking raisin. And then sleep, that's been big though. Sleep took me a little bit longer than everybody else, though, I think, because I drank for such a long time that I had to really let my nervous system kind of switch gears with that. And water consumption. I haven't had like energy drinks and stuff out here. So I've noticed that my skin looks more glowy because I'm consuming probably less caffeine, probably.
Are you saying right now out there you're struggling with protein and
No, no, no. I'm saying that those are the things that you named three things. So I was naming three things that are why we look so amazing.
oh my gosh, okay, I'm following. Eat protein, drink water,
And sleep.
sleep. Yep.
Oh, the thing I was going to say earlier too. because those three things have changed for me through my journey. What motivates you, what you're devoted to, and what you're disciplined about are all going to change too. That's why you need to know and have that system in place, because, without those three things, you can still succeed without any of those things being in place, but you're going to have accelerated success by putting those three things together and just having it as, creating that road that you're going down that's allowed to turn and change or whatever. But, so long as those three things in there, because I'm good at a lot of things, but that doesn't mean I'm a successful person, you know, like
Oh yeah, for
finishing things and whatever, so
it's
it's like,
what does success mean for you anyways? Success can
that's
mean
a good journal prompt.
what does success even mean? And I think that was actually in there.
Oh,
Um,
was it?
something like it at least, but
That's a hard one to answer. It took me a long time to answer that question, even just for myself, because every answer I would write down was regurgitated from a famous person or a politician or somebody around me that I looked up to because I wanted to be validated by them, not even because I actually really believed in what it was that they were saying. It's pretty sad when you like figure out that you're asking somebody about how to get more money when they don't have any. And you're like, oh, that's not the right person I'm asking because I want to be validated, not because I'm actually trying to learn something. That's tough too.
thank you guys so much for listening. And to find more from us, you can find us on Instagram at prettyperspective_podcast and also on YouTube.
Before we get ready to sign off here, remember that you are the light and you bring the glow, and we are a Pretty Perspective where we bring the light to hard shit.